Week 6 here on the Bobcast, and I'm joined by Frostburg State field hockey coach Kaitlin Thompson. And field hockey just one game this week, a midweek game at Juniata on Wednesday, a 4-1 loss for field hockey. Juniata, perennially a strong field hockey program. What did you see from your team in a game in which you traveled midweek, which has been something we've been talking about all year?
Something we did really well that we improved on against Juniata was coming out ready to play. We came out and really challenged them right away, which was something that we were struggling with on the road. So I was very proud of the team and seeing that they came out strong and ready to go.
And even after surrendering a goal to Juniata, scoring right back to tie the game at 1, did you like how your team responded, and how did that goal come about?
Yeah, I really liked how the team responded. Holly Van Wee worked really hard to get the ball at the field, and so did Gabby Rahuba. She had a lot of fast break opportunities for us. I think we just needed to do a better job of supporting Gabby as a team in order to have more second chance opportunities when we were down there.
What did Juniata do to make life tough in that offensive third where Frostburg registered just 2 shots and went without a penalty corner? How did Juniata make things difficult, and how can your team, do things like supporting Gabby in her runs that she has?
They did a really good job of setting up their press very quickly, and they made it appear as though there wasn't any options for us to get out of our defending zone, which is something that Salisbury does very well. So when we go back and look at our film, I think just seeing that, the options were there, we just weren't seeing the correct ones at the time, is going to be really helpful for us to move into our game on Saturday against Salisbury, and just showing the girls it was there, and when we used it, it worked. So just use it more, and then when it matters in a game against Salisbury, we'll make it count.
How hard is that to simulate in a practice environment, going everyone on everyone when you don't have as many bodies, and some people are going against each other when they're on the same team for your team in a game? How hard is that to simulate in practice, and how helpful is it to play it and the real thing before conference play?
It's definitely difficult. We do a lot of drills that are within our 50 yards, trying to simulate it with as many people as we can. Throw some coaches in on practice to get a little bit of numbers as well. But yeah, it's so valuable to be able to take little things from people who we play against, like a Juniata, like an upcoming W&J, and say to the girls, this is something that our CAC opponents do. It worked versus them, or hey, here's one minor tweak that we have to do in order to be successful against our CAC opponents. So that's why I think it's been very valuable to play such great teams early on in our schedule, so that way we're making these adjustments before CAC play.
Yeah, the schedule's seen Frostburg play Lynchburg, Juniata, E-Town, and a whole bunch of teams from the ODAC. It's been very competitive so far. No game over the weekend for your team. How did you decide to handle that? Practice, no practice, and what's the mindset going into this week?
Thursday's practice, we just had a competition day to really spark our competitive selves up a little bit. And then on Friday's practice, we worked on a lot of technical things. It was more similar to a spring practice where we didn't really work on our next opponent. And what we need to do in order to beat them. We really worked on ourselves and our technical skills. And then we took the days off on Saturday and Sunday to recoup. I think in the past 9 games, we had in the past 9 days, we had 5 games. Mm-hmm. So just wanted the girls to be able to take 2 full days off of classes and field hockey to really recharge themselves mentally and physically to be ready for the second half of the season and just be ready to dominate our CAC play.
Well, W&J is coming up this week on Wednesday, Salisbury on Saturday. I want to start with the game on Wednesday. The Presidents are 8-0, but they have not scored more than three goals in a single game, but have only given up 2 goals all season. Wednesday night has a chance to be a low-scoring game that your team can definitely be in and potentially win. How do you communicate that, hey, this is one we can get even against a tournament team last year?
Yeah, I think something that, yes, W&J has a great team, great defense. They are packing their defensive circles, so we just need to be able to get our opportunities through attacking penalty corners or just being very aggressive in our attacking circle. And defensively, we just need to lock it down. We need to be able to have strong performances out of our leaders back in the backfield and Kara Morell and Sierra Smizer, and just our midfield needs to be strong in supporting our defenders, and just come away with a win by being a solid defensive unit and just being relentless up on attack.
It'll be an interesting game. I think the styles of play will be interesting where W&J, as you said, packs its defensive circle rather than Juniata or Salisbury pressing up. And I want to get to Salisbury. When I asked you about the Seagulls last year, that you said that they were really technically sound and fit. Is your team excited for that challenge? And do you prepare any differently for conference play?
I mean, we prepare the same. We prepare as we would prepare for any game. We always prepare to try and win the game, but it's obviously a little bit more special when we enter the CAC play. The upperclassmen have been letting the freshmen know, this is when it matters. Yes, it's fine. Like, we just need to learn all the lessons from these past games and put them into our CAC play. And Salisbury's always a team that our Frostburg usually gets up and gets ready to play. So the fact that that's going to be at home as well, I think the girls will be really excited to play that game.
And in the regular season, for all the CAC opponents, all 5 of them, you have a chance to see each of them again, potentially in the tournament with every team qualifying for the tournament. So this might not be your only crack at Salisbury as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we just need to put everything we have into this game so that way, we put ourselves in the best position to advance in the CAC tournament.
Well, we're looking forward to it. At W&J on Wednesday night, a big game for Frostburg, an overtime game last year, and then the conference opener in Bobcat Stadium at 11 a.m. on Saturday. Coach Kaitlin Thompson, thank you for joining us on the Bobcast.
Thank you.
Back on the Bobcast, we have Frostburg State football coach DeLane Fitzgerald. The Bobcats off for the second time in the last 3 weeks this past Saturday. Coach, are you and your football team ready to return to normalcy in a football game each week for the rest of the year?
I don't know if we're ready to return to it or not. We don't know what normalcy is right now. 9 months to prepare for the first game and 9 days to prepare for the second game and 2 weeks to prepare for the third game. And now we've had 2 weeks for the fourth game, or we're in the middle of our 2-week preparation for the fourth game. Yes, to answer your question without continuing to be facetious, I think our players and coaches would like to get to a normal football week at some point in time this fall.
Did your football team get better over this past bye week?
Yeah, I think we did. We got healthy. I had some guys get healed up and be 100% and be ready to go. It did some mental and some physical healing. I think we're a better football team than we were a week ago.
Well, this weekend is a really big matchup that a lot of people are looking for. Frostburg ranked number 5 in the country. Wesley ranked number 6 in the country. Wesley last year was a 27-24 overtime win for the Wolverines. You told me that following Monday that Frostburg and Wesley were 2 of the best 10 football teams in the country. Here we are again. Coach, what decides games between 2 extremely talented football teams?
Was I right when I told you we were 2 of the top 10 teams in the country?
Yes, you were.
I appreciate that. We're 2 of the top 10 teams in the country again this fall. 2 very, very good football teams, and Wesley's tradition has carried them a long way. Great coaching, great players, great tradition. The Mike Drass legacy, which I'm very proud to say that I was a small part of. Going forward, you asked, what determines a game, but between the little things. And in examining the little things as a college football coach, what you come to the conclusion of is that there are no little things. But the team that does the little things right wins the game, and I'll take it off of the field. The team that goes to class, all the time. And I'm not talking about this week, but the team that attends class on time and attends class every day, those young men play the best. And, the ones that clean up their lockers and pick up the trash off of the floor and do all the small things in campus and in town and in their lives, in their personal lives, those young men end up being successful on Saturday in a big football game. The players that come to the weight room every day, and they're there 5 minutes early and they stay 15 minutes late, and they never miss study hall, and they're at study hall on time. And I could think of little things and little things and little things, and then you think there are no little things, they're all big things. But the players and the football program and the football team that pay attention to the little details are successful in big games.
I want to go back to the Rowan game where you said your football team didn't play like itself. After the first half and after the second half, you said that. What does that mean? What is your vision of your football team playing like itself, and how can your young men achieve that?
My vision is perfection, and my vision is always going to be perfection for these young men. And not only on the football field. Football field's such a small part of it, but in their personal and professional lives, that we're absolutely perfect. And perfection is unattainable, but that is the goal. It's always going to be the goal for us as a coaching staff and as a football program. You brought up the Rowan game. We were tighter than we should have been and had a lack of urgency. The beautiful thing, Andy, about our fall thus far is that we're sitting here ranked number 5 in the country, and we're undefeated. And here's the beauty. We have yet to play our best football game. We have yet to turn loose and let it fly and play our best football game. And that'll come. At some point in time this fall, that'll come. But we're yet to do that, and no excuses. But my reasoning is the downtime that we've had this fall and the lack of an actual normal game football week. We haven't had a normal week yet.
I want to jump on what you said there with the lack of urgency. Offensively, the stats say that your offense is putting up 38 points per game, but there have been 3 special teams touchdowns to add to that number. I get from our conversations that you aren't completely satisfied with their performance, and I have in my question, how do you get a sense of urgency out of that group, which is very experienced?
Yeah, we returned 8 starters on offense, and in those 8 starters, they're really good players, 8 seniors, really good football players. When you've had a bunch of success in the past, the natural thing for humans to do is become complacent, become satisfied, become comfortable. Complacency and satisfaction and being okay with being comfortable is a detriment to football and to life. But again, number 5 against number 6 this week. If we don't have a sense of urgency this week, we're not going to have one. So let's see if maybe the big game will wake them up.
Let's shift to the defensive side of the ball. It was a solid all-around performance against Rowan with the exception of really one play. With all of the skill position players that Wesley had, can that group afford to have any lapses? And this group defensively is relatively unknown. The Frostburg defensive brand under John Kelling is very strong. Is this their chance to make a statement?
John Kelling does a nice job running our defense, and he's strongly supported by our other defensive assistants, Pete Mayer and Jordan Proctor and Josh Wade and J.R. Lowry and Sean Magginson and Matt Puffenberger, and we have a defensive staff that does a good job, and here's what they do a great job of, getting 11 guys to play together. Getting 11 guys to play hard and play together. And on that one score by Rowan, we had a young man bust an assignment. He busted his coverage assignment, and that didn't disappoint us as much as after he had a bad assignment issue, then he didn't run to the football. His hustle at the end of the play wasn't as good as it should have been. But if we're going to line up and play 70, 75 plays on Saturday against Wesley and only have one blown assignment, we'll take it.
Moving on to special teams, a touchdown in each of the last 2 games for that group. Field position was critical against Rowan with Connor Cox punting from his quarterback spot. How big of a role has special teams played in big games in your career, and how big of a role do you expect it this weekend?
Being at Southern Virginia as the head coach from 2009 to 2013, there was no chance. We had no chance to be successful on Saturday unless we won teams. We had to win that 1/3 of the football game, or if you want to have it told to you truthfully, the 2/3 of the football game when you're talking about yardage going back and forth in special teams. But we had to win special teams to have any chance. And that special teams focus has carried over to what our staff does here at Frostburg. And Pete Mayer is our special teams coordinator and has done a great job job. Him and the other special teams assistants have done a great job of getting the guys ready to play. And we pick out weaknesses. You know, we watch a ton of film and watch a ton of plays, and if a team punts 25 times, we watch all 25 punts a couple hundred times. And until we figured out exactly where their weakness is and where the hole is in their scheme, and then we attack that weakness, we attack the hole that we find in their scheme. But yeah, really proud of the way we played on teams thus far this fall. Going to have another big special teams day on Saturday.
Speaking of which, your plea for some recognition, Malik Morris got the nod for Special Team Player of the Week from D3 football, and 2 weeks in a row blocking a punt for a touchdown.
How are you on the national special teams? How are you on the national special teams team of the week, but you can't make conference player of the week in special teams? So he gets recognized nationally, but hadn't been recognized in our conference yet. We've come to expect some things like that over the years, and it's just the way it is. Malik Morris, good young man, good student, good football player. We're proud of him finally, finally stepping out and being a leader and being a playmaker and being a difference maker in big games.
Frostburg has not beaten Wesley since joining the NJAC. FSU football has done virtually everything else in conference. I know you're aware of that. How aware are your players of that, and do you expect your seniors in particular to step up and have big games? I'm thinking last year Dante Chinnery has 14 tackles and an interception. Joe Beckford has 9 catches and scores the go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter. Are you looking from that from your seniors?
Yeah, you talk about how long it's been. Our young men haven't even been alive that long. This rivalry goes back past when they were even born, and it means nothing to them. And frankly, it doesn't mean anything to me either. We played Wesley the last 4 seasons, so the last 4 seasons are the only thing that make any difference. It was a great football game last year. It'll be a great football game again this year. As far as who's going to step up, who knows? In good football programs, different players step up each week, and somebody different will step up this week.
Finally, Division III has a bunch of high-profile games this weekend. Per your request, we're gonna get a prediction segment here from you. But is it fun to be on this stage with 2 ranked teams with the little number next to them and knowing a lot of people are interested?
Yeah, the number doesn't matter a whole lot to our football program, coaching staff, players. Doesn't matter to our alumni, our parents either. The next game is what matters, and getting ready for the next game. Let's be successful the next game. Let's get better this week, Andy. Let's get 1% better each day this week, and then let's be successful on Saturday. Does the big game matter? Yeah. We know the difference in playing an 0-10 team and playing a team that has an opportunity to go 10-0. And let's be honest, we came to Frostburg for this. Our coaching staff all picked Frostburg 5 years ago so that we could be here and play in these types of games. We didn't come here and we didn't lift weights all off season, and we didn't run all spring, and we didn't have spring ball, and we didn't work hard all this summer to play teams that are going to go 0-10. We came here to play in big games, and it's a big one.
It is a big one. Other big games this week. Number 2, Mary Hardin-Baylor taking on number 8, Hardin-Simmons, a big-time showdown in Texas. Who you got, Coach?
Mary Hardin-Baylor's going to win that game on Saturday.
Going up to Wisconsin, it is UW-Whitewater, bouncing back, unbeaten so far this season, taking on UW-Oshkosh. A little bit slow to start the season, especially offensively. Which way are you leaning?
Who's at home?
I am not sure. It's 11-12.
Okay. Wisconsin-Whitewater is motivated by how poorly they played at the start of last season. They lost 3 games last year and didn't make the playoffs. That doesn't happen at Whitewater. Whitewater's going to win that game on Saturday.
Case Western Reserve heads to Cameron Stadium, where W&J had not lost in years before the Bobcats knocked them off last year in the second round of the NCAA playoffs. Spartans and Presidents both are in the teens in the top 25. It's at W&J. Who you got?
W&J. Mike Sirianni and the Fighting Presidents, they win on Saturday. They beat Case Western in Washington, Pennsylvania.
Finally, number 5, Frostburg State, number 6, Wesley. Do you have a lean on this game?
You want a prediction on that game?
You asked me.
I asked you. I'll tell you what, the team on Saturday, the team with the most points at the end of the game is going to win the game on Saturday.
Works for me. Coach Fitzgerald, good luck this weekend. Thank you for talking.
Go Bobcats.
Here we go. Men's soccer in 3, 2, 1. Next on the Bobcast, we have men's soccer coach Keith Byrnes. And men's soccer, another 2 close games this week. two one-goal losses, and then a beginning of CAC play with the second one. A loss at Westminster on Tuesday night, 3-2 in overtime. A loss at Salisbury, a narrow 1-0 game. So another pair of competitive games. How would you characterize with how your team played this past week on Tuesday and Saturday?
Well, obviously not good enough to win. It's the same stuff, from week to week. We're close, we're in it, we're competitive, but we're not just doing quite enough offensively to put it away, and we seem to always, I don't even want to say make mistakes, but just maybe switch off for, a couple of seconds and just, have a play that we regret where we didn't track a runner or we didn't do something properly that maybe could have prevented the goal.
Both goals in the Westminster game, speaking offensively for your team, were headers from Basham and Caps Capende. And in one of our earliest conversations, you mentioned in the preseason, Basham had scored twice in set pieces. You mentioned that might be a strength for your team. How much of an emphasis has that been for your team this season? And really, with how things have been going offensively, is there even more pressure or when it comes to those situations where there's a free kick or a corner kick, and really you have a good opportunity to score there with your personnel?
I wouldn't say it's pressure, but it is something we're relying on. We kind of said from the beginning we're going to have to manufacture goals this year because the offense just might not be where we want it to be in order to really put teams on their back foot. So given the opportunity of getting the balls in the box with corners, set pieces, and throw-ins, we think we can be dangerous, so we definitely try to take advantage of that.
I noticed that there were a lot of cards given out to your team and opposing teams over the two games that you played last week. Do you have a preference for your guys to show a lot of emotion, not show as much emotion? And can it go too far, or can it hurt your team if it goes too far? And really, what's that line like for you and kind of managing your guys and what goes on out there?
Well, a lot of the cards you have nothing to do with. I mean, it's referee's discretion. He sees things one way, we see things another way.
Yeah.
We don't really get too many cards for our mouth, so sometimes it's unfortunate. I mean, Logan's, was a foul, and then he proceeded to kick the ball away to prevent a quick free kick, which is going to be a card, and he's got to know better that when you're already on a yellow, you can't be the guy doing that. So that hurt us. Going down a man, for 10 minutes or so, but then we came back and we got the goal we needed, but then I thought the ref, didn't do us a favor on a handball in the box that the player had no chance of avoiding. The ball just bounced up and hit his arm. He didn't play the ball. It was one of those things, but refs make decisions that you don't agree with all the time, and unfortunately, handball is one that nobody really knows the answer to what's a handball and what's not a handball.
Sure, and that was unfortunate in the Westminster game, causing it to go into overtime, and a really nice finish for the Titans to win that game. I want to go to Salisbury, and that game was an early lead for Salisbury in the 16th minute, 1-0. Can you point or go back to the best offensive chances for your team in that game, and how were they generated?
Typical, I think, end of the game, a little bit more urgency. The other team's maybe a little bit panicky trying to see the game out. We probably got in the box the most the last 15 minutes or so as we were pushing forward, and they were, they were just being safe and not probably playing as much possession. I thought that's where we were probably the most dangerous.
Well, we're looking at 5 straight games for Frostburg State men's soccer decided by a single goal or ended in a tie. The Bobcats in the conference opener started 5 first-year players against Salisbury. How important are these reps in these competitive games, and how much can your young guys improve over the course of the season, and how much have they already kind of learned through this point?
Well, we haven't learned enough because we're not winning, so it's still a growing process. They can gain a ton of experience. The question is, we're gonna gain it soon enough to actually find ways to win, or is it going to be next year when we see the results of, these guys got to play a lot of minutes the previous year? We're in this thing. If you look at the results from the weekend, a lot of close games. If Salisbury is a 7-1-1 team and we're 1 goal different from them, then I think we're in it. And just like all the other games that were 1-goal games, except the Southern Virginia game. I think the problem is just going to be making sure the kids can stay positive and not be discouraged, because it's hard not to be discouraged when you feel like you're so close, but you just can't seem to gain any ground. But if they believe that they're there, which we're almost there. We're just, something's going to have to change just a little bit to hopefully get things to go in our direction, and then maybe that would be just the turning point to get everything to go in our direction. But it's frustrating, but I see the work they put in practice, and I see when there's days we need to be better, and if we can do that consistently more and bring those training habits to the game and get the 90 minutes we're looking for, I'm positive that we can get the results that'll turn things around and hopefully get us feeling good about ourselves and the way we're playing, and put us in the hunt for this thing, because we're not that far off. And that's the frustrating thing is, it's one thing if you're just not a good team, but I think we feel like we can be a good team. We just can't seem to quite put it all together for 90 minutes.
Sure, and if you count all the overtime games this season, I want to say 3 or 4 of them, none of them have been a win for your team, but those are all games that could go either way. And as I mentioned, a young group, 5 first-year starters against Salisbury in a conference game, in which is very important to both the Bobcats and the Seagulls. I want to talk about this week. There's no game on Wednesday for men's soccer, but a big one Saturday night. Christopher Newport is coming here. What is the challenge that seeing you presents your team, and how are you going to take the week to prepare and improve your squad?
Well, hopefully we can get a little healthier. I mean, we're still waiting for some guys to come back, so having the midweek off, I think, will allow some guys to get the rest they need and hopefully be back on the field for Saturday. I mean, the challenge is, Newport's Newport. They're always the team that's right there at the top. This year their record's probably not what they would want it to be, but that's not going to change their level of play. They're still the team that we're all kind of looking up to at times, so we need to make sure we're playing our best soccer, or we'll be in another competitive one-goal loss. So that's not what we're looking for, so we're hoping this week, a full week to train for them and prepare for them, will give us a slight advantage. At least maybe we can, counteract what they do well, which is usually put teams under pressure offensively and make you defend a lot. So if we can be strong and know what to look for, then I think, we'll give ourselves a chance, because, I mean, it's one of those games where I know the boys will show up as far as intensity and work rate. It's just a matter, again, of limiting our mistakes and being more efficient and capitalizing and maybe trying to force their mistakes a little bit more.
Well, you can't win big games and big conference games unless you play against those teams. So Christopher Newport is here on Saturday. We're hoping for a men's soccer breakthrough. Coach Keith Byrnes, thank you for joining me today on the Bobcast.
Thank you.
Next on the Bobcast, we have women's soccer head coach Brian Parker. And women's soccer, after a 1-6 start, 2-0 last week, a win at Gettysburg on Tuesday night, 1-0, and then the CAC opener, a 2-1 victory at Salisbury to go to 1-0 in the conference. It seems like in these last few years with women's soccer, it's a challenging schedule, a slow start, and then conference play comes around and everything is fine. 2 big wins last week. What clicked for your team?
Obviously we've got, you could say, some just rewards. We've been putting the work in. We've certainly trained hard. The perspective of the players has been very healthy, and the soccer gods just kind of smiled on us this week. I mean, it's if competitive sports were nice and predictable and everything happened how you expected it, it certainly wouldn't be any fun and wouldn't be nearly as popular. So it is what it is. We're in a competitive endeavor, and we want to do everything we can to position ourselves to outscore opponents and do all the right things in terms of preparation and work rate and tactics and all the ingredients that can make a competitive team successful. And sometimes it ends up going the way you expect, and sometimes it doesn't. So this is a week where the worm is sort of turned for us. And in terms of results, and obviously I'm very happy for the players.
Let's start on Tuesday night. You're at Gettysburg. The Bullets are having a nice season, and Brooke Shahady gets her first goal of the season. It's a beautiful goal. Do you think that is all that she really needed to see to get going here in 2018?
Well, with any scorer, confidence is a massive part of it. You see that in almost every sport where there's an individual player who can make a difference for you. And I'm sure it was the kind of thing that was due to happen, and ultimately, after enough repetitions, is going to happen. And it happened to be a difference-making moment in a very competitive one-goal game against a good opponent. So, yeah, I would think it would be a little springboard for her, and she did have a good weekend. Didn't really cash in on the scoreboard, but had a very effective game against Salisbury. I don't think she came off in the 90 minutes, frankly, on a pretty warm day. So her fitness is good, or her energy is good. I think she just has to continue to just really have that work rate and have that good engine, and just continue to really make defenders work around her, opponents work around her when they have the ball, and just hope that good things are going to happen. But, she's one of those strikers who does kind of manufacture things a little bit and really makes things happen the way she's just a really aggressive athletic player, and this was a great example.
It was a beautiful goal, and what I think was remarkable about that game is that Gettysburg fired off 32 shots and got nothing. A 1-0 win for your team. Rihanna Lapin makes 15 saves, but the whole defensive group, Danny McLean, Helen Francis came in and did a nice job. What do you make of the overall defensive effort against Gettysburg?
Well, this is what we need to do. This is kind of a formula, if you will. We're going to give our forwards, opportunities to do special things, and then just defend like mad, like our lives depended on it. And, Gettysburg is good. It's a great possession-oriented team. We certainly weren't giving them anything easy. I think the vast majority of their chances were distance shots. I mean, they had some good ones. I mean, Rhee had to come up big for sure on a few occasions, but it was the kind of defensive effort, organized and determined that we need every time out, and the players back there should be proud. They did a great job.
So that was a big road win. Then you go to Salisbury on Saturday, and Danny Ferris scores twice, one in each half. Frostburg holds on to win. How would you say your team played against the Seagulls?
Really gritty, really tough. Obviously opportunistic for sure. All 3 goals in the game for both, combining their goal were scored off set plays. And so preparedness and just, readiness on those free kicks, expecting the ball, just anticipating things, those were the kinds of things that gave us a bit of an advantage. But, if you can't get fired up to play a cross-state rival, in our conference like this, but with Frostburg and Salisbury, what are you doing? I mean, these are the games that we came here to play, and it was a great environment and a great day, and our kids were excited and really played with a bit of mental toughness that we needed to show.
Just like Brooke Shahady against Gettysburg, Danny Ferris, her first 2 scores of the season were against Salisbury. Similar to the question for Brooke Shahady, do you think that's all Danny Ferris needed to get going again? I know she's not been as consistent for being able to be available, but is that something that can springboard her?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't see her coming, it's certainly your own fault. I mean, big and strong kid, wins tons of high balls. I mean, everybody's scouting on all of our upper-class players at this point, I'm sure. She's been very responsible in the way she's managed herself this year. The slow start, she had some concussion symptoms, couldn't get cleared right away, had to watch a lot of players play ahead of her, had to sit around a lot, frankly, and just wait for her opportunity. And, her fitness is not where she even wants it to be now, I'm sure, but she's responded pretty well in some kind of difficult circumstances, and very, very happy for her. And yeah, she does a couple very unique things that are hard to handle for any team we play, and she did a little bit of that on Saturday.
Has your team, especially the new players or younger players on your team, kind of figured out and bought into Frostburg women's soccer's MO of get a couple of chances, get a goal or two on chances that are catered to the skills of your scorers, and then defend, and how far did this week go in really showing this is how we win, let's do what we do best?
Well, that's what it was. I mean, this is kind of the template, so to speak. Look, we're going to outpass and outpossess, maybe half the teams on our schedule or whatever number it is, but we're going to play a lot of good teams who want to keep the ball and are going to make us chase and defend, and of course, that's a massive component of the game. And you just control what you can control, and try to retrieve the ball when you can, and defend smartly, and make opposing teams earn every pass, and let the skillful players make a difference for you, and that's kind of what we've done. I think there is, this is the kind of week where, yeah, some of the new players to the team probably are kind of, hey, we can win games, we're going to be fine. We do have good players. I mean, there is a shot of confidence certainly that gets into the team, and this was the kind of week we needed. I mean, the shot of confidence came a little later than we would have liked, of course, but it's kind of fun to turn the chapter, turn to the next page, I guess, in the next chapter of a season when you play conference games. And obviously all the cliches apply. Everybody's 0-0 and everybody's, just kind of starting a new season, second half of the season. And we did a great job of jumping out in the conference games and against a rival. It feels very good.
And as you like to say, you win a game, you put the team behind you in the standings. And so up one on Salisbury already.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, 8-team conference. You don't want that 8-1 game. That's the number one thing you don't want, in an 8-team conference. So obviously we're now in position to get into the middle of the bracket, and now can we just fight our way into the top half of the bracket? I think ideally you want to get that 2-3 game at home and avoid the road trip midweek. So that's obviously our anticipated goal, and every game counts now, and it's we put a good team behind us in the standings, so to speak. Obviously, you have tiebreaker over the teams head to head, so we'll see how things progress.
Last thing to put a bow on this past week, the Gettysburg win was without Melissa Krofchek and Anais Ventura. Neither of them started, both played against Salisbury. This is your chance here. Were you pleased with how others stepped up last week into roles?
No question about it. I mean, you mentioned Helen Francis. She's one of the unsung heroes who really had to come in and play major minutes. Dana McLean has been in a bit of a rotation and rotated back into the lineup and played a couple of great games this week. There's no question that we've had to go deeper to the bench in almost every area of the field than we would typically expect to do, and that's fine. We've got a team full of good players. Trust me, everyone on our team is eager to play, and when they get their chance, they certainly want to make the best of it. And it's a competitive environment, and that's the challenge. I mean, if everyone didn't want to play every minute of every game, they wouldn't be trying to be in a competitive environment like this. So, the girls have gotten their chance and made the best of it, and it's been good to see, of course.
This week, it's at Catholic, an overtime loss for Frostburg last year, and then home against Christopher Newport. That is a big one, as CNU has won the conference in the title game against Frostburg each of the last 2 years. What are you looking for out of your team this week?
It's just the consistency. Obviously, we had these two monster performances that were largely dependent upon our energy and commitment and work rate, and so we need to make sure that we are ready to deliver that every single time out. I think our number one objective is to be a tough out for every team we have, to make it hard to allow goals, to make it hard to be scored on, and give ourselves as much time as we can in a 90-minute match to let that special thing happen on the offensive end and get a 1-0 result or more. It depends on how things go, but I think the trip down to D.C. should be great. I've known JP forever, always a good athletic team down there and organized. And they got a new field online, coming online like as we speak. I think we're one of the first few games they've had on it. So should be fun night game. They usually don't have night games, but, with the new facility, it should be a great trip. And then CNU's coming to visit. They're the elephant in the room. They're the defending champs, and they're the ranked team. And, it's one of those nothing to lose environments for us where we get to kind of do some things and match up with them and just kind of set the table for hopefully a rematch that we might have to get, in the conference tournament. But it's nice to have them come up here. And, again, there's not going to be any pressure on us in that game. They've had kind of a rough week and not getting some results that they maybe expected. So, hopefully they're not, mad as hell, when they come up here Saturday. They probably will be and be very, very good. But that's exactly what we expect. And so it should be a compelling game. And hopefully we can, like I said, make it tough for them.
We're excited for it on the road on Wednesday, and the big one Saturday afternoon. Christopher Newport will be at Bobcat Stadium. Coach Brian Parker, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for your time. Thanks.
Next on the Bobcast, we have cross-country head coach Dale Louie, and a busy week for Coach Louie as Frostburg State hosted the Bobcat Invitational. As is tradition, there was plenty of rain, plenty of mud, plenty of adverse conditions. The men took second overall. The women placed fourth. Highlights were Robbie Romano winning his third straight meet. Sarah McCurry led the way for the women, taking fifth. Coach, how did each team run? What were the conditions like? And how was the competition that came in?
Conditions on the plus side, there was sun. We have not seen that at our home cross-country meets.
We'll take it.
So that was a step in the right direction, I guess. But as everybody knows, most of the country's been seeing a lot of water, and we are no different. I understand from somebody who has a gauge in Frostburg that we had 5 inches last week, which I thoroughly believe.
I second that.
So the course was sloppy and muddy, and you can't worry about times. You just have to go out there and run the place and really be thinking about are there a couple places here where the footing's a little bit better, and if there is, then you really want to make a move there. And you could see that with some of the better runners from all the teams. I especially saw that on the second loop around. Some of them were, for example, they're booking it down a couple of the hills, much faster than the first time through. And I think they just got a sense of, all right, this is what the course can give me.
Specifically, men's team, women's team, what did you like? Any standouts?
Well, I kind of like just the fact that we're running in those kind of conditions. Now, what I mean by like is that at some point we're going to run in those types of conditions. So we might as well have it early in the season, and let's see what these people, especially the new people, what are they made of? Are they going to just do nothing, just because it's a sloppy course, or are they going to go out there and try to do their best? And there's certainly a large measure of guttiness on a course like that is entailed, because it just a lot of it is almost every single step is a battle. I'm hoping that we had a few people not wear spikes, and I think they should have now learned that on a sloppy course like this, that although footwear is a big question, what are you going to do and stuff, the bigger question is how long are the spikes going to be, really. And so a bunch of our men went to that adjustment, and I'm not sure it helped a whole lot because it was so soupy out there, but that's what you got to try. You got to look for the adjustment. So that was good. I think both teams are aware of that. We have some people who are new to cross country, so that was a very, very new experience, and you could tell that they struggled with it. But talking to them after the race was over, one of the things that happens is it's like, well, okay, I didn't drown in the water, I didn't drown in the mud.
They survived.
I survived, yeah. And so next time around, you hope they that effort gets taken up a notch, just because they know they survived.
As you like to say, it's a cross-country course, not track on grass.
That's right.
And that was certainly the case this weekend.
Yeah. This weekend might have been through the barnyard.
Yeah. Plenty of mud and just wet conditions. But that did not stop a lot of your runners, including Robbie Romano, his third straight win. Last year you talked about him taking another step forward. How is he better than he has been in the past, and do wins in smaller events build confidence when it comes to larger events?
Well, answer your last question, first. Yeah, I definitely think anytime you experience some success, you can build on that. To jump from Robbie to Sarah McCurry, if you don't mind.
Sure.
She's probably an excellent example of that this year. I'm sure we'll come back and talk about her a little bit later. And Robbie's a little bit in that same category. He's obviously had more success than some of our other runners in terms of where he has placed in meets and things. He's really shown a commitment to grinding it out the entire race, not just segments of it. He's always been a smart runner. I think he's gotten even smarter about what he's doing this year. But he has had a couple of races here that, even though some of the races have been a little smaller, he's really been stacked up against some pretty good competition. I mean, Saturday's competition this week was pretty good. Last week was pretty good. The gentleman from Alderson Broaddus has done extremely well this year in races against Division II competition. And Robbie and he were just really kind of working together there for part of the race and stuff. And Robbie, just like at Messiah, that persistency there in that last mile has enabled him to ultimately just edge away from the competition.
Well, we're really excited about the season he's having. You mentioned the other week potentially an all-conference campaign for him this year, so we're very happy to see him continuing to stack up the accolades. I want to also hit on the men's side. We had a consistent top 5 earlier in the year with a few of the shorter distances. However, now that Frostburg is running championship distances from here on out, Matt Whitley, Timothy Wolodkin working their way into the top 5 this week, along with the usual suspects Romano, Braxton Clark, and Colin Flynn. What did you see from them, Whitley and Wolodkin, especially, and what do you expect from them as you get to these championship distance events?
Well, I think you touched on a good point there. They're used to that 8K distance. The 8K distance, I think, for both of them, but maybe even more so for Matt, is a little bit more their cup of tea because it's a little longer, and they both have demonstrated in the past that ability to be competitive runners for us. We absolutely need them, and some of the rest of that pack to perform if we're going to move up in the conference, move up in the Mid-East region and stuff like that. So both of them have come in this year. Matt's work during the summer makes it a little difficult for him to train the way he probably would like to train. And Timmy has, for over a year or so, had some hamstring knee issues that hopefully we are kind of getting beyond now. He certainly has the talent. We were missing 2 guys that have appeared in our top 9. Both of them are walking around in boots. Dominic's got a foot problem, and Jake Rickards, who's been in our top 4 quite a bit.
Yep.
Jake was out this week. I guess you could say probably turning his ankle or something off the campus, or off the training course. And I'm not sure when we're going to get those 2 guys back. So that's not a good thing. So it's kind of nice to see the other guys, realizing they've got to step it up. And I think we've got some other people there. Fisher Wheeler is I think going through that freshman, getting used to the volume of work, getting used to the volume of the race. I think he's got a lot of ability there. And it's just going to be a matter of time for him to be moving up a little bit higher than he has been performing.
Well, as the calendar turns to October, we're getting closer to conference championships at the end of October. I want to shift over to the women's side and touch on 2 points. First, Sarah McCurry continues to perform at a really consistent rate. How is she improving? And then we'll get into the whole team getting into shape. But let's start with McCurry.
Sure. I think we've talked about this some other weeks, that she's become a real racer and not just a runner. And she's become a gutty racer, which is even better than just saying you're a racer in my book. Again, she's shown some great persistence. Saturday, what she's had this year is a group of runners that she has been competing with, and a lot of kind of like battle back and forth, and she's been hanging with those better groups this year, and her race strategy for the most part has to be to just run mile after mile after mile at a consistent pace, and she knows she's capable of it, and she's been doing it. I think she's only going to get better at that as she gains even more confidence, in her ability. So it's been kind of really exciting to see, the vast progress that she's made since she's arrived here for us, because she was not a competitive runner before she stepped onto our team. So it's one of the more remarkable stories, that I think we could talk about with a Frostburg runner.
And she's having a really good season. We're happy to see her register a top 5 finish over the weekend. As far as the rest of the women's team, are we starting to see that group round into shape as the calendar turns towards CAC championships?
We're getting there. I would have liked to have maybe seen some more progress this week, but with the course and everything being where it was, it's awful hard to kind of get a sense there. I was happy that they plugged along there. I thought Sidani Brown had a really nice race. So in terms of that question about rounding in the shape, she definitely stepped it up, big time this week. Not only in terms of place, but again with the sloppiness of the course. As we mentioned earlier, it can be kind of easy to just sit back there and plod along, and she went after it. And what we need from her there is to do that meet after meet after meet, because in track and in cross country, there have been some times where she's really shown some flashes of we know she's got the ability. All right, the question is, can we become consistent? And she's getting there. We're going to a course this weekend that she experienced, one of her better breakthroughs when she first started running for us. And so I'm hoping that in that way she's kind of looking forward to, to racing at the sales there.
Well, let's go ahead to DeSales. The DeSales Invitational this weekend. Of course, it's a significant race because it is the regional course, and just about every team in the Mid-East region that second week in November will be going to DeSales and sending their top 7 runners. Are you expecting a larger field because it's the regional course? Are you expecting a larger meet in general? And is there anything specific your team is looking to do this weekend, knowing they'll be back in November?
Well, the last I saw, there were 33 schools registered.
Wow.
Usually on the start line at the Mideast region, we're looking at somewhere between 60 to 70 schools, so it's a massive start. The biggest in the country, I believe, at any region, at any division.
Mm-hmm.
So we need this kind of a race to get that jostling around at the beginning of the race, because there will be a lot of pushing and shoving. As I think we mentioned a prior week, some of our people have a fair amount of experience on this course. In fact, I think it's fair to say that they have probably run this course more than maybe a lot of other courses we've ever run. We're only at home once a year, and so that should be a plus for us. I know some of our people like that course, whereas a lot of runners in the region do not. So mentally, that's I think a little bit of an edge for us right there. And it was good to hear last week already our upperclassmen making comments about that course in general conversation and engaging our new people in that conversation, and just starting to give them a little bit of a probably a mental picture of what to expect. The start of that race, besides having a lot of people, is quite a challenge, because the gun goes off. Your first step is uphill, and you are probably uphill for a good half mile or so, and then you're out into a big field where it's rolling hills and dodging deer and stuff like that, and over half the course is on one side of the road, that first side of the road, and you've got to kind of put yourself in a good spot as you come back down towards the start. One of the things we've already talked about is that, relatively speaking, the finish line comes at you pretty fast once you come out of the fields on the other side of the road, and that's certainly something that I know our upperclassmen are going to be stressing to our new people. You've got to be working out in that field long before you sense that, okay, I got a left turn, a right turn, and there's the finish line, and that's pretty much how it comes at you. Like I'd like to say, everybody smells the water at that point. You're not going to be passing too many people. You've got to be doing that earlier in the race.
And really, last one on the DeSales Invitational. Going from this week's meet, the Bobcat Invitational, Messiah had 3 teams come out. From a small meet to a large meet, especially with so many new runners, how do you assimilate them, and how can you really work as a team? 33 teams registered. How important is that, and how can they do that this weekend?
Sure. Well, there's 2 things in particular besides just race strategy and course strategy, but the first would be that we've got to kind of protect ourselves coming off the line, and our men right now, because of our numbers, are a little bit more equipped to do that. We've got some people that are pretty aggressive in that way, and because you can get pushed and shoved, and that herd can get you pointing in a direction that you don't really want to run. I mean, you obviously want to run the shortest distance, and to snake your way up the hill at the start is not the shortest distance. And the herd can get you doing that. So we got to protect ourselves there. And then the second thing that we really try to stress is you've been training with your teammates. You've been racing with your teammates. You should, at this point, have a sense of familiarity with them at least, so that when you get into this big race with all of these people, use them as datum points, so to speak, as people that you know. Okay, there's Timmy over there, and I'm probably in a good spot. If you have some self-doubt, hopefully Timmy's doing his job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because if he's not, you might have some problems there. But that's what we really stress, because you probably will recognize some of the runners you're running against, but there's such a herd there at the beginning that you might recognize them lining up on the start line. But when that gun goes off, you're not you can't see your own feet. So you have to use your teammates in that regard.
Well, it's a massive invitational, and the regional will be even bigger. We are excited for it. Coach Dale Louie, thank you for joining me this week on the Bobcast.
Thank you very much.
Next on the Bobcast, we have Frostburg State Volleyball head coach Becky Fletcher. The Bobcats hosted the Frostburg State quad match, invited Christopher Newport University, Lebanon Valley College, and Newman University. Took a set from CNU and then beat Newman 3-1 in the final match of the weekend. So 3 matches this past week, Coach. What did you like from your team?
Well, there was definitely something going into the Christopher Newport match. I mean, Christopher Newport, I think, is ranked 24th in the country right now. And we knew that was going to be a tough match. And we also knew that, they had a really long bus ride to get here. So if we could jump out on them and jump out early, we might be able to surprise them a little bit. And I think we did. We hit reasonably well. We controlled our errors. I think they made a few more errors than they typically do, which we were able to capitalize on. And we got to see some really good volleyball from our team Friday evening.
And then we'll go with that Christopher Newport match.
Yeah.
That first set, the 25-23 win. CNU's likely a tournament team with or without a conference title. You caught them kind of off guard on the bus ride. How much fun was it for your team to be in that set, competitive with Christopher Newport, and then how much of a building block is it to win a set against a team like CNU?
CNU is a good team. I think that you have to do a lot of things well to be able to take a game away from them or to beat them in a match. And I think we did those things well. We served really well that first set and that whole match, but really that first set. And we were able to get them out of system, and which in turn let our hitters and our defense do their job. Our defense was able to do their job and get our middles and all of our hitters involved. So I think jumping out early on them was something that it surprised our girls as much as it surprised Christopher Newport. They were like, hey, we can play with this team. And so they did, and they showed that, and I hope that they can keep that confidence moving forward into other tough matches we have.
There was some great energy that night with it being a home match, a night match. A lot of parents were there. A lot of fans were there. Yeah. There was a lot of juice, and from that first set, you could tell that the team was really invested. And just from the outside looking in, it was really fun to watch.
It was a fun match to coach, for sure.
I want to shift to the Lebanon Valley match. This one I didn't see so much of. When we talked later in the day, you said your team blocked really well in that match. What did you like from your team against LVC?
So against Lev Valley, we have been struggling blocking a little bit this season, and I think that Lev Valley definitely our high in blocking. Lev Valley is a good team. They are a pretty low error team, and so I think that kind of threw us for a little bit. We didn't serve and pass as well as we typically do against Lev Valley, but it was nice to see our blocking step up again, and that made it a little bit easier on our defense. So Lev Valley is a good team. It's historically a really good team, and I'm okay with it as long as we learn something and we can take something on for our next match.
Well, in the last two matches, Lebanon Valley and Newman both returned All-Americans. Lebanon Valley, Jessa Tia in the middle, and Newman, Melanie Malseed. And then Newman, you take on the Knights, and they have an All-American coming back. You lose the first set and then rally back, win the next two sets. The fourth set is 25-25, and your team closes out those final 2 points to take home a win. And what does a win like that mean for a young group like your team?
Oh, it feels so good. It's been a while, so that might even be the reason it feels better. I think we were down in the fourth set too. I think we were down by 3 or 4 points. So to come back at the end, being down by 3 or 4 points and then winning 27-25, learning that, all of the things we've been working on, being aggressive and making sure that we're going after it on serve and making sure that our blocks are doing a good job to let our defense do their job behind them. I think it was good to see all of those pieces finally come together. And offense as well. Our offense was really spread against Newman. It wasn't one person carrying our whole team. We had 5 players with 9 or more kills, which is something that I haven't seen for a long time here at Frostburg, seeing our offense so spread, which was really, really fun to coach. And I think the girls had a lot of fun because I think they all felt like they contributed.
For an offense to be spread out like that, how much of that falls on the setter and Katie Onyendo and the job she did distributing to the different players?
Katie had a great match against Newman. We always talk about getting our middles involved in the game, and I think it was pretty obvious that Biamba and Ashante had a great match. And doing that allowed the rest of our hitters to be opened up and have more one-on-one opportunities. So the blockers on the other side of the net were really holding on Biamba and Ashante because they were doing such a good job of putting the ball away that Rachel and Haley and Bailey had a phenomenal match as well. And
outside, all of the hitters that are playing are new to the program or
Correct.
in their second year in the case of Rachel Sneed. And I want to the 3 we saw most over the weekend, Haley Ultimus, who we've talked about a lot here, and then Bailey Godlove and Rachel Sneed. I want to focus maybe a little bit more on Godlove and Sneed. How are they and how is their progression going at this point in the season?
A lot of teams rely on their outside hitters to score a lot of points. We tend to rely on our middles to score a lot of points and our outsides to maybe keep the ball alive and take advantage when they have those opportunities to score some points. So we've been talking about that a ton this season. If you can't get a kill, make sure you're placing it somewhere so that the other team is maybe moving a little bit. So first priority is to keep the ball in play. Next priority is to make a move, and the last priority is to get a kill. And so they were able to capitalize on some opportunities that maybe they haven't had a lot of this season, but they definitely took advantage of them against Newman.
Biamba Shatenge looks to be back from the injury that held her out a little bit earlier this season. She led the team in kills every match over the weekend. Newman, 16 kills. When she's rolling, how does that help everyone else?
I think Biamba's also just very consistent and confident, so it's really great to see her out there leading our team and leading a lot of young hitters on our court. So her experience out there just being mature and calm and stable, but also she's just fun to play with. So I think that she's able to pull our younger freshmen or our younger hitters along with her, and they kind of look up to her in that regard.
It was a fun weekend just to get to see your team play and interact with each other. Last year we talked a lot about the senior class and the chemistry that they had, and it looks like this group stays loose during games. What can you speak to just how the personalities all fit together now that we've been maybe halfway through the season?
We're about halfway through the season, and they're definitely coming into their own. So, every team's different from each year, so it's not fair to compare, chemistry of one class to chemistry of another class. But I think this group has its own personality. I think they have their own strengths. I think they have their own inside jokes, which is a lot of fun. But I think it takes time to build that. And with so many new people on our roster, I think that it took even more time to build that. And I'm happy that it came out this weekend while we were at home and an exciting match where we were able to come back and win a set.
And then this weekend, you're heading to Rowan. You're seeing Rowan, Scranton, Eastern. What are you looking for out of your team?
It's another tough weekend for us. Eastern and Scranton have had really some big success in the last couple of years, Scranton especially. Eastern is historically a very strong program. And Rowan plays really great defense. So they're always this scrappy little team that's tough to beat. So I think that we need to come out. And if we play how we did against that first set against Christopher Newport and how we played against Newman this weekend, then I think we're going to have a lot of success.
Well, we're looking forward to it. It was fun to have volleyball in Bobcat Arena this weekend. Good luck this weekend, and thanks for coming on, Coach.
Thanks.